Welcome back. We've learnt quite a lot about object-oriented programming over the last couple of weeks, and this week we're going to do some practice activities where we use our OOP skills. In this lesson we'll create a Gorgatron program using object-oriented methods. In this lesson we'll briefly look at the way object-oriented methods are used in game development, and we'll set some attributes for Gorgatron, some methods to allow the Gorgatron game to be played, and we'll create the main program that runs the game using these attributes and methods. OOP is used a lot in games development nowadays. Games characters are defined typically by defining a character class and then creating many different instances of that class. This allows modern games to be populated with many varied characters. Furthermore, by using inheritance, we can create many classes of character, so types of character which will come up repeatedly in the game. For example, zombies in a zombie game, or aliens, or marines, whatever kind of game it is. And then of course lots of other kinds of objects that occur in games: weapons, hazards, treasure, in Grand Theft Auto, cars would be an object. And then we can create methods which allow the different instances of the various classes to interact with each other. Once all this has been set up, it becomes quite easy to generate multiple levels of a game, lots of different scenes within a game, just by combining the characters and the other classes of object which we've already defined. So having talked about all of that, let's create a Gorgatron game. You know the rules of the game, we've created it several times using different programming methods. Well, this time we're going to create it using object-oriented programming. In the Gorgatron game, what are the attributes of the game characters, the hero and Gorgatron, and what actions can they perform? Let's make that happen now. The characters in the Gorgatron game have got 5 attributes. The name is set as a parameter. Strength, skill and speed are random numbers. I think we did them from 1 to 10, but it doesn't really matter. We can set it at anything. And the character has the ability to use weapons, but begins with an empty list of weapons. So that's the class. Can you create a constructor method to declare objects of that class? And then can you declare the hero and Gorgatron as instances of that class? I suggest that you pause the video now and go and start that game and see if you can make it. You can keep this up on the screen and create a constructor that matches this definition. And in the main program, create 2 instances of the class: a player character, a hero, and a monster, a non-player character that the hero will battle against, in this case Gorgatron. Well, I hope I gave you a chance there to create this for yourself. Here's the character class and the constructor method. We have 1 parameter, the name. I've only defined strength here, so if you want to extend this to add speed and skill. And in the main program, you can declare a character with your name, input by the user, and a monster with the name Gorgatron. So I hope you've created that program, and if you've run it, that it works. If you get any errors, go back and make corrections. So you may recognize this diagram. This is what we use to set out the attributes and methods for an OOP class. The attributes of a game character in this game are the name of the character, strength, speed and skill, and a list of weapons. We've got to create at least 3 different methods for the character. One that displays all the information about the character, a method which will give the character a weapon and enhance their strength, speed or skill depending on what weapon it is, and some kind of a method that lets 2 characters fight against each other. So again, if you just want to try and make that happen, that will really show that you've got the hang of object-oriented programming. I will take you most of the way through all of this on the screen, but the further ahead you can get under your own steam, that will really show that you've mastered OOP. So the Showinfo method will display the main facts about any character. I'm expecting this method to be called in the main program with a command something like this: show info about the hero, show info about the monster, and the output when I run the program will be something like this. So in this case it seems that the hero is fairly much outclassed by Gorgatron, and so we want to display something like that. So pause the video now and create a method called Showinfo, which displays not just the strength but the speed, skill and weapons of your 2 main characters. So here's a method that would do more or less exactly what I've just shown you. You'd need to extend this to include speed and skill, of course. So see if you can figure that out and create that method if you haven't done so already. We also have to enable our character to choose a weapon, and in this game the 3 choices are axe, sword and bow, and their choice would be passed as a parameter to the set weapon method, and then the list of weapons would add that item, and according to whatever they've chosen, either their strength, their skill or their speed would be increased. The amount of increase is up to you. So that would be another method. See if you can write that. In a couple of moments I'm going to show you this method, which obviously you can just copy if you haven't managed to do this yourself. So here's the method. I have only added one option. That's the option to add an axe to the list of weapons, and the axe increases strength by 5. And then I've used the Showinfo method. So this is an example of me calling a method from inside another method, and that's to show the change in the character. They've got a weapon and their strength has increased. So if you haven't made that, you can copy this. Obviously it also needs to be extended to add other choices, a choice for sword and a choice for bow. So you have a little think about how you would make that happen and create the method now. So we can put together a complete main program using the Showinfo and set weapon methods that we've already created. Again, I've only got one option in the weapons, which is axe, and you want to increase that, don't you, to add the choices of sword and bow. And we're going to have to create one further method, which is the fight method. You can see that the monster is being passed as a parameter to the hero's fight method. So basically the hero could fight anything, but at the moment the hero is fighting the monster. So we're passing the monster as a parameter, And again, that just shows you a parameter can be anything, and in this instance it's actually a character is being passed as a parameter. So I am going to show you how the fight method would work, so let's have a look at that now. Well, it's actually quite simple because at the moment, remember, my simplified program has only got strength. So if your strength is greater than the other person's strength, then you win, otherwise you lose. Now you could certainly expand that quite a lot. You could either pass the choice of combat up as a parameter from the main program, or have a question inside this method asking what type of combat, strength, speed or skill, and then work out the victor accordingly. You could also return win or lose, true or false, to the main program and display a message in the main program. So there are lots and lots of variants of this. This is the very simplest, and it only allows a fight of strength. So you'll definitely want to expand that to make it more interesting. So we're nearly there now. Make sure that you've extended the game from the sample code that I've provided to include skill and speed. Put the whole game inside a loop so that you can play repeated bouts of the game. And at the end of each loop, reset all the attributes to their default values so that you don't just get more and more weapons and get stronger and stronger each time. Otherwise it will get ridiculous. And try playing the game that you've made and see if anything occurs to you, and think of any ways that you could improve it. This isn't the end of the lesson yet, but that's quite a big activity for you to be getting on with. So in this lesson, you've created a character class, you've decided on particular attributes for the characters in this game, and you've created methods so that the characters can get weapons and fight each other. And then you've used all these attributes and methods within a program to create a complete, albeit quite simple, working game. So here are some ideas for extension activities. You could create a monster class which inherits the character class methods and attributes, but instead of random strength, has permanently high strength. You could give all your characters hit points, which they lose. They lose a point if they lose a battle, and you could loop until one or the other characters loses all their hit points, at which point they lose the whole game. You could create new types of monsters within the monster class that you've defined. For instance, I don't know, dragons or sea monsters. And you can add new attributes and methods for new types of combat and new aspects of the game. So really the sky's the limit in terms of Gorgatron, and I hope you've understood from this brief activity how using object-oriented programming has actually greatly simplified the creation of the Gorgatron game. And it's no surprise that the vast majority of games programs in the modern world are created using variations of the OOP method. Okay, there is another example this week, so that's all about maths, so you could have a go at that instead of or as well as the Gorgatron example. So bye for now.